Welcome back, and more breaking news coming in. After an Indian youth was killed in the Russia-Ukraine war, the MEA has now issued a statement, says that they have learnt about the death of a Kerala youth who had apparently been recruited to serve in the Russian army. It says the Indian embassy in Moscow is in touch with the families and all possible assistance is being rendered to the family of the deceased youth. Remember, this has become a huge issue when it comes to the bilateral dialogue between Russia and India, where several Indian youth have been fraudulently recruited by the Russian army to serve in the front in Ukraine. And now what we are learning is that a youth from Kerala has died during the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, has died on the Russian front, is what we are learning. And the MEA has issued a statement saying that they have learnt about the death of this Kerala youth who had apparently been recruited to serve in the Russian army. The MEA has said the embassy in Moscow is in touch with the families and all possible assistance is being provided to the family of this deceased youth. I'm joined by my colleague Siddhant Mishra on the broadcast. So Siddhant, this continues to be a problem when it comes to Indian youth being fraudulently recruited into the Russian army and sent to the front.
Well, absolutely, Ayushman. This has been the concern. This has been the paramount concern for the government of India. In fact, when Prime Minister Modi visited Russia in July, perhaps at the summit level, he did take up this issue of Indian youth working in Russian army, perhaps on the Ukrainian border. And right after prime ministerial level intervention, in fact, the last data that we had was that only 19 of them were left serving in the Russian army. More than 100 of them had returned back after the intervention by the Prime Minister and also the follow-up taken by the Russian embassy in Moscow. Now we are getting to know that there is again one death which has happened, and in fact this youth comes from the state of Kerala and who has apparently been recruited to serve in the Russian army. So this is a death of another Indian national from Kerala. In fact, the Ministry of External Affairs has extended deepest condolences. The embassy in Moscow is in touch with the families, and Ministry of External Affairs is working with the Russian authorities for early transportation of mortal remains to India. The matter has also been strongly taken up with the Russian authorities in Moscow as well. And the Indian side also reiterated the demand for the early discharge of the remaining Indian nationals. So, going by the numbers that we have from the stats that were released in November, then there were only 19 of them on record working in the Russian army. So, the government of India is putting efforts so that they can also get discharged early. Now, more details regarding particular youth is still not available with us, but this particular scandal broke out in the month of March, in fact, when there were some recruiters from India, Dubai and Central Asian countries. There was perhaps a nexus through which these youth were recruited into the Russian army, and they willingly had perhaps signed the papers for the recruitment, perhaps which is also a technical issue to get them early discharge from their services. But since there has been a prime ministerial level intervention with each time around during the bilateral talks also this issue is taken up, and in fact the government of Russia has shown a very positive attitude towards this demand of India. We could expect the remaining soldiers, those who are the remaining youth who are serving in the Russian army to return soon.
Right. Thank you, Siddhant, for getting us that piece of breaking news. This continues to remain a concerning issue between India and Russia.